is about to get controversial.
You should be able to deploy at any time of the day with no downtime. Like that's why we have blue-green deployments. That's why we have containers. That's why we have all this stuff.
I totally agree.
I agree with you in theory there, but it's just like if something happened, no one wants to be deploying Friday afternoon and then something fuck up because then you're like, I'm delaying the start of my weekend. That's the whole thing about it. I agree with the technology we have. You should be able to deploy at any time, but I don't want to run the risk if it's kicking off my weekend because as soon as it does, I'm going to come hunt down whoever fucking feature broke it, and I'm like, come on.
And that's exactly.
One time, I was on my way to meet a client in another state, and before my meeting, like that morning before my meeting, I deployed on the plane, landed, and had my presentation. All good, like, and that's the way it should be.
Take the spotlight off me, please. Dom is talking. There it is. Yeah.
Deploy. Don't wait. Ship it.
Oh, I definitely think you should deploy very rapidly. You know, like don't wait until you're like, we got like 3 months of features to deploy. Like, oh fuck you.
No.
Don't do those quarterly deployments.
Ship it. Ship it yesterday.
I like this.
Now I'm gonna picture frame.
Yeah, now stop messing with the settings.
Did you know that this is like my biggest nightmare is being in a picture frame? This is like I'm living my nightmare right now.
All right, cool.
Look, Steven's trapped. Are you happy now? Steven is trapped.
No, we're back.
And he's turning into a mime. Which I'm pretty sure is his biggest nightmare.
Yeah. So look at Steven. You know, because he does stuff like this. I would have captured the moment when he does this kind of things. But
you can't orchestrate it though. It has
to be
no.
Has to be organic. You can't maybe like let's manufacture this. Like, no, it won't work as well. It'll feel phony.
Okay, while Mr. Gadir plays with the settings, if I have anybody listening, deploy now, deploy tomorrow, deploy in the afternoon, deploy before
lunch, 5 o'clock on a Friday. Lunch.
Yeah.
No, I disagree with Steven. Deploy 5 o'clock on Friday.
Well, then Dom's the person you call Saturday morning when it's all fucked up.
Yeah.
And then I'm gonna say, where is it failing? Where are your logs? You know, what happened to your cluster?
Like, I don't know, Mr. Deploy whenever you want. Why don't you go fucking find them?
Well, no. You should have containers. You should have rolling deployments, all the fun stuff.
Like I said, I don't disagree, but I definitely am like, just don't do it on a Friday then. Just don't. You're just asking because really what you're doing then is you're going, hey, who's that guy with the law? Like if it can go wrong, it will go wrong. Murphy, isn't that the guy?
That's right.
I think it was Connery.
No, it was not Connery.
Sean, yeah, Scottish guy. Yeah, that's it.
Not. But yeah, that's when Murphy's Law shows up and he goes, hey, sounds like you're trying to do something risky with someone's time. You can't. You're over, right now. You know, so you think now I'm. Oh, that's just normal.
Yeah.
So
okay. I don't know how did we get to deployment?
Because somebody has a surprise deployment tonight.
Oh yeah.
Say that. Yeah. Definitely bad.
Thank you. By the way, is everyone drinking? Am I the only one drinking?
I am, sir. Yeah, that's what actually took me a little bit to finish.
Cheers, gentlemen.
Cheers, my boys.
So yeah, surprise deployment. Tell us about it.
I'm not trying to put too much. I'm trying not to get fined.
Where he brings, I want you to find this Nancy boy Elliot Ness. I want him dead. I want his family dead. I want his house burnt to the ground.
He's totally not talking about me.
That's exactly how they think.
Yeah.
So, our topic today, is, I guess, like the overarching topic is the current job landscape for developers and technologists. More specifically, I think it's time that we discuss the interview process and the hiring process. As our viewers know, 2023 has been a funky year for people in tech. We've been affected because of rising interest rates, money drying up, startups going belly up, some companies going belly up, large companies that you wouldn't think. And I feel like a lot of us in the field are feeling the heat. I personally was laid off. It took me a while to get a gig. I mean, I say a while, a couple months, and a lot of talking to folks, networking, jumping through hoops. And even then, the interview process is just, I'll caveat by saying I wasn't prepared to be laid off. So I had been out of the interview loop for almost 2 years. So maybe that's part of it, but like now in my current role, I interview folks.
Yep, that's the perfect thing to do.
And I've gone through, and I obviously I went through interviews, but I think Steven most recently had an interview that went well. So, maybe we should start off with some good news. Tell us about what that interview process was like.
So that interview process was, as far as tech interviews go, it was fairly painless. I mean, it was just very, there were a couple of initial tasks that had to be done before I got to, meeting with the hiring manager. I went through, it was a recruiter that called me that set this all up. So, we did all that. And then it was just basically like, hey, there's a couple of assessments you need to do, just, that this company does. So, did all that. They weren't tech interviews. It was just kind of more around my personality and those kinds of things. So as everyone who follows this podcast, they know I am pretty just even keel, just, fade into the background real easily, just fairly vanilla, if you will.
Yeah, that whole thing about him running into traffic without his clothes on, that was a rare occurrence.
Yeah, I took some expired cough medicine. But so we got through that, and then I got to meet with the hiring manager and I got to talk with them. So that was pretty standard. And then they gave me a coding assessment, and this company, they were like, we have made a great effort to make this as painlessly as possible and to kind of reflect the kind of things that you will be doing in the role, which I was like, good, I appreciate that. And so we went through that, and then this is all remote. So, and then I got through the coding assessment. I got to do it over a weekend, which was fine. And then the final round of that was, it was 3 separate interviews in the same day. But one of them was with some of the developers, and we did a code review of what I had done for the assessment. And, they asked me some questions and things like that, like how could we improve it, or maybe why did you do this, and then just kinds of things like that. So, and then I got to meet other members of the company, and those are just more conversational, that kind of stuff. So I was like, it was actually a fairly painless interview process, which I've done some, so I was made an offer, I accepted. So it was like, yeah, no, this is good. This is great. Now, maybe that is a story that you hear all the time, because you're like, I got the offer. So, of course it was awesome, but I've been through a lot of interviews where it was painful.
So this one was painful, or this one was okay?
This one was not painful. This was not painful at all. So I was like, cool. So I was really impressed with what they did. And so I was like, thank you for having a reasonable technical interview. Not saying they didn't ask me some questions that maybe I was just like, I have no idea, but I was upfront about me saying that. So, but it was still like, hey, gave me a technical interview, you gave me a code exercise. I did it. I got it to work. It passed all the unit tests for the platform it was on. So, that got me on to the next round. And then from there, like I said, I really enjoyed the code interview, even though it was a panel interview. So I had 4 people asking me things. So I was like, that was new, but I got through it. And yeah, but like I said, for all the interviews I've done over the years, this one, You're muted. We can't hear you.
No, I said I was having a question. I didn't want to say anything. But do you like?
Did
Do you like
you gotta use the feature to wait?
Okay. What's the feature? Okay, got a question. So, do you like panel interview? What you guys like?
I mean, I don't mind panel interviews because I generally I don't mind speaking to a group.
Yeah, actually, I enjoy
Especially when you're speaking to a great group of people like Gary.
Thank you. Like I
That's
said,
right.
of course.
Yeah.
Of course, it's a privilege.
But yeah, so I didn't mind it. It was,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not gonna say it wasn't a little nerve-wracking because you're like, you got 4 people who are looking at your code and they're just kind of going, oh, well, what about this, and you're like, oh, I didn't even think about something like that, but whatever. Got through it. And I was able to explain most of it.
Nice.
So yes, that was a good interview.
Was it all React or was it a mixture of
it was C# and then some React.
Cool. All right. What about your interview, Dom? How was yours?
Yes. Now.
Well, hold on. Before we continue, I need to give a shout out to our sponsor, Juicero. Juicero, for when you want juice on the go and you want it squeezed from a machine.
Yeah. Nice. Good job.
I'm gonna go ahead and pop a link to Juicero in our video description. You guys are familiar with this product? It's
gonna be horrible. Is it a real product or some?
It's a real product. Why would you say it's horrible? They're giving us
legal is telling us we're not clear to promote that.
Oh, is that because of what happened to the children?
Well, it's because of that. It's also
What?
because of the outbreak that was associated with that company. So
okay. Well,
this needs to be on the cutting room floor.
We'll cut that on post. Anyway, so I've had a number of interviews, and I've categorized them into 3 types. That I ran into. I ran into the ones where they send you a coding assessment or some sort of puzzle, and they never you never hear one way or another. Like even if you passed it, because I mean there was a couple that I know that I passed and never heard back, but I never spoke to a human outside of a recruiter.
Yeah.
Who forwarded along the quiz or whatever. Those can go down the tubes, in my opinion. The second is what I like to refer to affectionately as the angry nerd, who is just out to who wants to stomp you no matter what.
They want you to know. They want you to know how smart they are.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter your qualifications. It doesn't matter what you know. They, for one reason or another, my assumption is that they have a candidate who they've earmarked, or maybe they get take a gander at your resume and there's something that they don't like,
possibly.
And then or you say something, for instance, I'm a very opinionated person. I might say something to the effect of, oh, I like serverless technologies and I think they're great.
Or if you want a more recent example, you should deploy anytime.
Well, yeah, that's a hot take. That's an opinion that would get under someone's skin.
That's true.
Whatever the case, I've noticed that the angry nerd gets angry, and then and it's very immediate. It's like a light switch.
Triggering, sorry.
Yeah, you've triggered something, and then the angry nerd just goes off. And then the third and final one is the technologist who knows more than you, but they're not there to flex on you. They're there to figure out what's going on, what what you can contribute, and they're genuinely interested And the most recent way that I've seen this, I work with a guy. He's a couple levels above me, super bright. He knows
Making me
more than
blush, Dom. Stop it.
well, but he does not ever say anything negative about candidates after we interview them. Like, I mean, there's been a couple candidates that have mmade me upset. And they've made me upset because
sorry, Dom, I couldn't help it.
Yeah.
So they've made me upset. And again, this is a hot take. I feel like the knowledge that we put our hats on is hard won. Like, what you know because you fought with the thing. You were up late at night trying to fix something, deploy something, find where something was broken. And you learned those things the hard way. So for me, when I meet someone who touts themselves with really high titles, and just kind of is faking it the whole time, that grates me,
Sure.
But this guy, it never rattles him. Like, he's always so nice. And what'll happen is that
that's because he's mature.
That's because he's mature.
He's so much more mature.
So much more mature than me. But what'll happen is, we'll get to let's say we'll get to our technical. And most of the time, like, we try to not be harsh. I definitely I've definitely gone a lot nicer because of watching this guy work and watching what he does. But
hold on, tell us after this, tell a little bit more about that person, his age, his background. What did
he is?
What's his likes, his dislikes, turn-ons, turn-offs?
He's a guy.
Yeah,
probably early 40s. Very good at what he does. Super knowledgeable. And just he's a keystone person. So he's like the go-to guy for pretty much everything. Like, he's and we all meet that guy. Like, we've all met that guy at one point or another. So but I've ran into a couple of instances now where we go to interview someone and they'll have a title of principal architect, or principal engineer. And I could be wrong with my assessment, but I feel like if somebody has that title, I'm expecting that they are at a minimum better than me.
I mean, I see what you're saying. Like, if you have that, you're like, I'm expecting you to be like cream of the crop here. But unfortunately, that title, just like being called a senior now, is like, it means different. That there is no standard in the industry. That varies from company to company what that means.
Exactly. Yeah.
So unfortunately, I kind of be like, all right, I'm not saying you can't. Maybe you're like, oh, this guy says that this person says they're a principal engineer. I will maybe start with a more technical question than I would probably ask someone who was just a software engineer somewhere. I'd be like, okay, this, like, I could maybe cater to, like, hey, I'm gonna ask, somebody who says that they're a principal engineer in the past, I'm going to totally ask them different questions. And I'm going to ask somebody who's just a senior engineer somewhere now. But it's the same with being called a staff engineer. You're like, okay, that means there is a connotation that goes with those words, or there's a meaning that's associated with that. That means that you are kind of a cut above just a regular senior engineer. So, but it also depends on what company they come from. Some companies throw it out
exactly
easily. Some people, you got to earn it. But yeah, so I don't I would definitely be like, don't think just because they have that title that they're better than you, Dom. They're not. They're not better than you. Okay, you are a shining star, and don't ever forget it.
So this most recent because I ran into two now where and the main thing that I noticed is that they had excellent soft skills. I mean, they could really uh speak in a very high level, had great communication.
Making me blush again.
But then when you got into the technical, they were, you could tell that maybe at one point they had been very, they had been on top of it, but it had gotten away from them quite a bit.
Well, I mean, yeah, I could see that. Like, I've worked with a few principal engineers where they're not in the day to day like code base. They are at that higher level, which they're kind of knocking on like high level decision and architecture conversations and stuff like that. They're doing R&D kind of stuff. So I don't know.
So this gentleman, had cloud stuff on his resume. And I know a little bit about the cloud, like about this much, maybe less. I know there is a cloud.
He's an architect for Amazon. He knows the inventor of the cloud. He's working for them.
Cloud.
So I saw cloud, and I was like, okay. And then I asked them, I said, hey, tell me about your cloud experience. And they said, they were not very forthcoming when it came to their cloud experience. And I thought that was astute because had they opened the gate, my intention was to
to burn them.
go in there and find out some stuff. So I don't know if that was I think it was an astute move on their on their part, but I mean, I really learned something from interviewing folks from this gentleman who I work with. He I mean, he's so nice, and we'll do a technical and somebody will be floundering, and he'll help them out, he'll throw them a lifeline.
Sure.
Although what's funny is that every once in a while you'll throw somebody a lifeline and say like, oh, maybe you want to do this, and then they'll argue with you and double down, and it's like it's because I mean, I genuinely don't want anyone to fail. I'm sure people,
exactly.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people say that, but I don't want anyone to fail.
Good man. I like Steven. Steven enjoys the struggle of the interns. He kills them with questions. What's the
I'm sorry, I asked them how their day was going and they broke down in tears. I was not expecting that.